Special counsel Robert Mueller charged 12 Russian intelligence officers with hacking Democrats during the 2016 election. So this is from CNBC here. Their bullet points are: Special counsel Robert Mueller has obtained a new indictment charging 12 Russian intelligence officers with hacking Democrats to interfere with the 2016 presidential election and with stealing information of about 500,000 American voters, the Justice Department announced Friday. The indictment, lodged by a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C., accuses the Russian spies of hacking into the Democratic National Committee and the presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton, and of releasing emails obtained from that cyber snooping with the goal of influencing the election. President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly called Mueller's probe a witch hunt, was briefed on the case earlier in the week, and that the president is fully aware of today's actions by the department, said Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Okay, so here's what they say. The indictment lodged by a federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. accuses the Russian spies of hacking into the Democratic National Committee and the presidential campaign of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and of releasing emails obtained from that cyber snooping with the goal of influencing the election. More than 300 people associated with the DNC and the Clinton campaign were targeted, the indictment charges. Two of the defendants are also charged with conspiring to infiltrate computers of organizations responsible for administering elections, including State Board of Elections, Secretaries of State, and companies that supply software and other technology used to administer elections, said Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. It was the hacking of a state election board that led to the theft of information about the 500,000 voters, he said. Rosenstein said the conspirators created fictitious online personas, including DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0, and used them to release thousands of stolen emails and other documents beginning in June 2016. Okay, so apparently right after Donald Trump did a press conference and said in that press conference, this is now a very infamous moment, Russia, if you're listening, see if you can find her 30,000 emails. So in other words, he was telling Russian intelligence officials, or just saying Russia in general, whatever it may have been, hey, see if you can hack in to get Hillary Clinton's missing emails. Very soon after that, there indeed was a hacking attempt, and they did hack the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign. Now, Mueller lists specific Russian intelligence officials in the indictment and says, okay, these are the people who are responsible for that. So what I don't understand is this. Mueller keeps indicting people that will never spend a day in a U.S. court ever. So he's indicting people. Last time it was the troll farm people. Now, the indictments that, in my opinion, are perfectly valid and legitimate from Mueller are Manafort and Flynn, and I think there's a substantial amount of evidence to talk about, their guilt, whether it be for money laundering or other charges. So I think he's spot on, and I totally back him when he goes after Manafort, Flynn. I hope he's got something cooking for Kushner and some others. But in terms of this move, it strikes me more like the troll farm move, because you're indicting Russian intelligence officials for doing what Russian intelligence officials are going to do. Now, this does tell me one thing, though. I was not sure whether or not it really was Russia that did the hacking, because Julian Assange swore up and down that it indeed was not Russia, that his sources were other people not affiliated with Russia. And he said that over and over. And looking at WikiLeaks' history of transparency and exposing dark secrets that should be exposed, I tended to trust Julian Assange because, he hasn't lied to me before, so why would he lie to me now? I think it's very likely he wasn't telling the truth now, and I think it's very likely that indeed it was Russian intelligence officials who did the hacking and then did get the DNC emails to WikiLeaks. But I think where I diverge from other commentators on the left, or I should say Democratic Party commentators on this, is I still think it was a good thing that we saw those DNC leaks. In fact, I think it's crazy if you disagree with that, because we learned about corruption. We learned about the primary effectively being rigged against Bernie Sanders. You know, we learned about Hillary Clinton giving speeches and saying there's this bigotry against the rich in the United States, and why are people so intolerant against the rich, and we should have totally free and open trade borders, which would be like NAFTA and TPP on steroids. We learned about the funding agreement that the DNC had with Hillary Clinton, where Hillary Clinton, her campaign was so in control of the DNC that they would get veto power over press releases at the DNC. So one of the two campaigns that were down to the wire in the Democratic primary was in control of the DNC, as they were pretending to be neutral all along. So what's missing in this conversation now, because all the focus is on, oh, would you look at that? Russia is the one that did the hacks and gave us the DNC leaks. There's so much outrage over who did the leaks that we're now no longer discussing what was actually in the leaks and whether or not they should have been leaked in the first place. So, and this is the same kind of thing that happened with Edward Snowden. You had the establishment saying over and over, like, oh my God, he's a traitor, treasonous. Can you believe that he leaked these secrets that the NSA had and that our intelligence agencies had? Unbelievable. And while the establishment was focusing on that, regular people were like, oh my God, the NSA is spying on all of us and collecting all of our metadata, and we definitely should see this. I don't care how we got this information. It is objectively a good thing that we got this information. I feel the same way about the DNC leaks, that it exposed corruption and primary rigging, and it's so important to see it that I don't care how we got it. And here's the real litmus test, man. So let's pretend for a second we live in this hypothetical universe where Russia hacked the RNC, and they leaked information about the RNC doing primary rigging against one of their opponents and exposed rampant corruption within the RNC. Would you still flip out? Would you still say, oh my God, we've been attacked? And a lot of people are calling this literally terrorism. Would you say, oh my God, we've been attacked by Russia, this is incredible, this is terrible, this is so wrong, how dare Russia leak that information on the RNC that exposes corruption and primary rigging? Or would you say, if it was the RNC, you know what, I don't care how we got that information, I'm happy we got that information because we need to know that information, because in what's supposed to be a democracy, we're supposed to have transparency, and we're supposed to have our elections on the up and up and be totally free and fair and open. And we learned that, as a matter of fact, that was not the case. So for me, I'm just trying to be logically consistent, because in a situation like that, I got to be honest with you guys, I would shrug and I would go, I don't care if it was Russian intelligence operatives. I don't care if it was fucking Swedish operatives, people from Burundi, or like Trump said, a 400-pound guy sitting on his bed eating potato chips. I don't care how we got that information. We needed to see that information. We should have seen that information. And it's hard for me to fathom that anybody would seriously be arguing, no, we shouldn't see that information because Russia, because of how it was obtained. I'm not okay with seeing this information, which obviously you should want if you want to live in a democracy and a free and fair and open system. So if it was the RNC, I'd kind of shrug and be like, I don't know why you guys keep focusing on who leaked it as opposed to what's in the leaks. So now with the DNC, I find myself in the same boat, that yes, it overwhelmingly likely was Russia that did the hacking and gave the DNC leaks and Hillary Clinton stuff to WikiLeaks. But I don't care. I don't care. And I know that that's going to drive a lot of you guys crazy. And I know you're going to think that that's like, you know, an outrageous thing for somebody to say. But again, I think those leaks were so important and so necessary. Now, where I would criticize WikiLeaks for sure is you should have been working day and night to try to get leaks on the RNC as well, because it's not like I only support transparency for one side. It's like, oh, only expose the dirt on the DNC and not on the RNC. No, you should be exposing dirt on everybody who has a position of power, who wants a position of power, who are in the government. And we know, listen, I'm willing to bet you that the RNC is equally as dirty as the DNC, if not even more so, because that's the general trend with elected Republicans and Democrats anyway, is that the Democrats are really dirty and the Republicans are usually even dirtier. So that's the one part of this that I reserve criticism for WikiLeaks and others, is that if you're going to do transparency, do it across the board. Do it across the board. And we have the quotes from Julian Assange saying he thinks it's, better if the Democrats lose. This was back in the 2016 election. Julian Assange was like, it's better if the Democrats lose. Now, admittedly, I think he was making that criticism from a left perspective, in the sense that, it's the old backlash argument. Oh, the worst guy will win. And then when the worst guy wins, the left unites. And then we try to fight and overwhelm the bad guys. And then everybody will be united against the bad guys if the Democrats lose this time. So I think he had a weird kind of backlashy argument there, but and he was biased. He was biased in favor of the Republicans. But the one thing I would want is, no, you have to leak on everybody. You don't get to say like you're above politics and then play politics and only leak on the DNC. Another important takeaway from this is the collusion stuff of like, oh, Donald Trump specifically working with Russia. No, I mean, if that's the case, he wouldn't have had to announce the thing he wanted them to do in a press conference, because he would have had a direct line to them. Instead, he was talking and shooting from the hip and saying, Russia, go get Hillary Clinton's deleted emails if you can. Please, believe me. Unbelievable. And then they did it. So would you need to have this, very open, very public pronouncement of that if you are like, working behind the scenes with Russian intelligence operatives? No, you just tell them behind the scenes. Like, oh, here's what I want you to do. And I definitely don't want anybody to know that I'm telling you this, but here's what I want you to do. No, he said it in public. So if that's what the Democrats mean by collusion, that Donald Trump told Russia, hey, get the email or release the emails and release DNC information, and he said it publicly, okay, fine, guilty of collusion. There you go. There's your collusion. But anything beyond that, I'm still unconvinced. And again, to me, I'm a policy guy, so it always comes back to policy for me. And when you have Donald Trump arming Ukrainian rebels who are currently fighting Russia, when you have the U.S. permanently militarily occupying Syria, as we're doing right now, remember Syria's one of Putin's top allies, when you have U.S. warships in the Black Sea right on Russia's border, as we do right now, when you have increasing sanctions, as we've seen repeatedly from the White House, it's hard for me to look at that. Oh, and the other thing is he spent all last week ripping Germany because Germany has an oil deal with Russia, and he was trying to blow up that oil deal so that the U.S. gets that oil deal with Germany. He was saying Germany's a puppet of Russia, and the reason he was saying that, it wasn't projection like, no, I'm the puppet of Russia, so now I'm going to accuse Germany of being the puppet of Russia. No, he was accusing them of being a puppet of Russia because of their oil deal with Russia, and Trump wants that oil deal to come to the U.S. So if you're a puppet of that guy, then why would you try to blow up his business dealings and benefit your own business dealings? Because he's not a puppet of that guy. Trump is as corrupt as it gets. The people around him are as corrupt as it gets. We have so many examples of this, whether it be money laundering, whether it be working together with other governments, Saudi Arabia, Israel. But when it comes to Russia, the policies are simply not benefiting Russia, so it's hard to imagine him being a puppet of Russia. But yes, I will say, I do think it's fair to say at this point that it looks like the original DNC hacks were done by Russian intelligence. But again, my counter-argument to that is, one, I don't care, because we needed to see that information. And two, you're going to indict Russian intelligence officials for doing what Russian intelligence officials are supposed to do. That's like Russia deciding we're going to indict NSA guys for spying on them, or we're going to indict CIA guys for spying on them. How would we react to that here? If Russia decided we're now announcing a list of CIA operatives or NSA operatives or both who have committed crimes against us and tried to hack us, we'd be like, Yeah, of course, bitch. Of course we try to hack you. That's what we do. We're the NSA. We're the CIA. You're a rogue state, a foreign entity. Of course, that's our whole point. So it's the same thing here. I think, and then the final point is, and people have been pointing this out, weird that 3 days before Trump is scheduled to meet with Putin and do this summit, what happened? This leaks. So this information leaks, which puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Trump to be standoffish with Putin, because now all U.S. media in unison is screaming, oh my God, Russia hacked our elections. This was an attack on our democracy. This is literally terrorism. This is the worst thing ever. And Donald Trump was scheduled to meet with Putin 3 days later. So you have 3 days straight of the media screaming at Trump, you got to be hard on Putin. You got to be tough on Putin. You got to make sure that you walk away from it not with good relations. And that scares the shit out of me, because I want them, listen, I want the U.S. and Russia to have good relations. I really do. I really do. I don't want permanent escalation. I don't want a military standoff with another nuclear armed power. So it is curious timing that you release this 3 days before they meet, and now there's so much pressure on Trump to be more standoffish with Putin. So anyway, I kind of file this new round of indictments under the same category as the troll farm, which is, I don't know what you're doing here, dude. Robert Mueller, what are you doing? Listen, I'm telling you, I agree with you with Manafort. I agree with you on Flynn. I think Robert Mueller's doing a fantastic job going after the people in Trump's administration who are guilty of corruption and money laundering and 1,000 different crimes. I think the fact that he's looking into Trump's business empire is a wonderful thing, because you're going to find a lot of shit there, man. So I agree with that 100%. But the Russian troll farm shit, you know, indicting people over memes, and now indicting Russian intelligence officials for doing what you know Russian intelligence officials are going to do, it's just weird and it's just goofy. And it blows my mind that this, like, how quickly this convinces so many people of the most grandiose, extreme narrative of, like, no, Trump is now a Manchurian candidate and we all know it. Like, the number of tweets I got where people thought it was like, I just pwned Kyle because I told him Trump is a puppet to Russia because of the things that are happening in the media. It keeps talking about it. Are you even going to bother to look into the details and the specifics and try to, you know, go through these things with a fine-tooth comb and try to be objective about it and see what parts are bullshit and what parts are not bullshit? And then remember, these are indictments, not convictions. Indictments, the old saying is you can indict a ham sandwich. So are we really going to pretend like we should shut our brains off and go with the most extreme media narrative on this without really parsing through it? Because I think that's stupid. And when I see a lot of the tweets that are directed at me like, oh, what now, Kyle? Yeah, what now is exactly what I'm talking about now. This is my take on it. I've given you my detailed take on it. And I guarantee you there's still going to be a lot of people who think like, that guy, Kyle, he won't admit the thing with the Manchurian candidate. Idiot. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see how this all ends.